Well, historically, we have in October done a State of the School meeting and distributed an annual report. And we've kind of taken a little bit of a hiatus from that the last few years. So if you've joined the community during that time, you might be thinking, no, I don't think you've done that. But we did for many, many years. And so as a nonprofit, we realized that it's very, very important to keep our valued stakeholders updated. And we decided that instead of just going, oops, we didn't get that done in October, that we would hold a short meeting this time of year and give you some really important information and make sure that you do feel valued and that you have the information you need. So tonight, when you leave, you are going to be able to get the annual report. And that's one of the things we always do at the State of the School meeting. And I have some highlights up on the screen up here of some of the things that you can read about in the annual report. But I'm not going to read it to you because you know how to read, and I don't want to take our time to do that. So what I'm going to do is just get right into a couple of things that we want to really share with you. And the first thing, I want you to grab your phone. And if you'd grab your phone, and if you would text LMCA to 22333. So if you could do that, and once you do that, just very quickly, they should send back a confirmation that you have joined the session. So you text 22333 and then LMCA to that, and then you'll get a confirmation. And we have a couple of little polls that we want to do to start off tonight. And basically, the first two poll questions are going to tell us who's in the room. So the first one is, what parts of Lake Mead Christian Ministries do you participate in? And so there's a number of choices there. Now, look at them all before you pick, because it's Lake Mead Christian Academy, Early Ed, Wellness Center, Church at Lake Mead, 2 of the above, 3 of the above, all of the above. So go ahead and put your answer in there, A through what? G. So which one? And as you see, it's going to populate up there on the screen, and it tells us who's in the room. And as we've done this at the other 2 sessions, one of the things that happened in those sessions is that we really populated a lot of the E, F, and G, which was really neat because what Lake Mead has to offer, people are not just really taking part in one piece of Lake Mead, but they're actually a part of more of what Lake Mead Christian Ministries is all about. This is a little different than the way the other ones had turned out, but we still have people that are involved in more than one part of Lake Mead Christian Ministries. And now our second poll is, how long have you been a part of the Lake Mead family? And there again, your choices go all the way from 1 year to 10 or more. And so go ahead and answer that one. And we'll see. We have what we had in the other meetings too. We have people all over the map. Everything from newcomers to people with some longevity. And that has been consistent in the other 2 meetings. So we're really blessed to have people that are a part of this community, and wanted you to kind of know the people that are in the room. Now, to get into our content, I do have one more poll, and I want you to think a minute about this question before you answer it. And this is using just one word. Why does LMCA exist? If you were limited just to one word, why does the LMCA exist? And once you decide on what that word is, go ahead and enter it. And this is going to show the results a little different. This is called a word cloud. And so it's going to be, your answers are going to go up on the screen. You are allowed to use somebody else's same answer, and if you chose the same answer, that word's going to get bigger. The words that don't have as many people that are offering those words are a little smaller. But there again, you know, in our other 2 sessions, we had consistency where by the time people had logged their responses, the words that really popped out in each time was discipleship and Jesus. The word love, the word community, those were probably the top 4. So that's really great, because if you look at the word, why do we exist? We never want you to miss that. We always want you to know why Lake Mead Christian Ministries exist. And so, we have the final words of Jesus up there from his earthly sojourn, where he said, go and make disciples. So disciple making is huge to us here at Lake Mead. And whether it's our K-12 Academy or whether it is our campus church, whether it's the Little Eagles Early Education Center or it's our counseling center, for all of the parts that are Lake Mead, we have the same goal, and that goal is that we exist to make disciples of Jesus Christ. And we also, in our mission statement, we want to make it very clear that there are two ways that we believe that God has called us to accomplish this discipleship. And so right there, through education and community, I always like to think of that as two tools that God put in our hands to accomplish the mission. So as we think about why we exist, there obviously are some other things that become a part of the message. I'm sure that you understand what we do. That is, what do we offer? And if you've been around a while, or if you're a more analytical person, you might even understand how we do it. What it is that we specifically employ, the different methods to do what we do. But if you do not know why, if you don't know the why, you are not able to get all out of this partnership and this relationship with Lake Mead that we want you to experience. So we want you to have the maximum benefit. It's vital to know the why, because the why is our vision. The why is our cause. The why is the differentiator for Lake Mead. And it's, so to speak, the secret sauce for us. And we want you to know that we're that committed to the why we exist. So let's look at one story, because it's all about people. It's all about making disciples. We could look at a lot of different stories, but we're going to look at one story tonight, and that's the story of Andrew. He's one of our students. And in 2015, Nevada began a choice scholarship program. And the interesting thing is that though it's been in place for 2.5 years, very few people still understand about it or know about it and know how it works. This year, Lake Mead has 86 recipients of the Choice Scholarship attending, and all of these students, when they apply and are qualified for this, they can receive awards that are up to over $7,900. So that is really a great opportunity for students, and if you want more information about that, we have Kara, faithful Kara in the back. And Kara has information. She's the guru of the Choice Scholarships. So you'll want to talk to Kara. On the flyer you have on your seat on the back is just another way for you to look up the information yourself later on. But back to Andrew. He was spotlighted in the AAA newsletter because of his story of how he's able to benefit from the Choice Scholarship. So we're going to listen to a little video.
Well, we had financial issues, so we had no choice but to put Andrew into a public brick-and-mortar school. And it was a good school, nice neighborhood, but there were challenges. And this was where I knew I had to be. I have an older son that has attended Lake Mead, and I knew the history with Lake Mead. And I knew that I had to find a way to bring him back. We came to the school, reached out, and we were told about the scholarship. And I know that it was a blessing from God.
It's helped me so much because the teachers they give me the time I need. And because of that, I have A's and B's on all my report cards. And
they care.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
And when you're a mom and you hear that sort of thing, it's huge.
Coming to this school and looking at all the things that the teachers are doing for me, staying after school, taking time, really caring about me, I feel like that's God telling me, this is where you belong. I'm looking for you. I want you. It's like my second family. I come to school, I see my friends, and I'm loved everywhere. I can't even explain it. It's just beautiful. It really is. I came to LMCA and I joined theater class, and I found out we're doing a student-run production. And I was just so excited because I just never done that before. And so launching in, going in, auditioning, waiting, anticipating.
This school brought out something in him. I don't know if it was. It's a God thing. That's all I can say. It's God.
It really is.
It is. This program is not to be believed.
I knew that he could sing better than most, just from hearing the way he spoke. And then when auditions came and he sang, it was one of those moments where it was like, okay, it wasn't even a question. Andrew was cast.
I just remember them saying, Charlie Brown, Andrew Ambrose, and I was like, okay, hold on. Overwhelming.
There was a moment every single show, even in rehearsals, and there's a little part where he talks about how he has to give it one more try. And even now, just thinking about it gives me chills because the lyrics were so personal to who Andrew is, and yet he was Charlie Brown, and that light that's inside of him going outwards into the audience and singing about it was just...
All I need is one more try. Gotta get that kite to fly, and I'm not that kind of guy who gives up easily. Wonder why they stop to say.
Probably one of my favorite moments, because you can see it, like, this is why we do what we do.
And so over 28 years of this, where we've been blessed with so much and then some more. And families like the Ambrose family, families like yours, and the part of that blessing has been additional space in the last couple of years. The space that we have at Lake Mead has been largely funded by staff members. I always want to mention them, and you'll know why I always like to mention them in a little bit. But also the current families and past families. So we've had so much generosity, so much faithfulness. And then also the Landwell Company. Always like to mention that part of the history because starting in 1995 for us to get our first campus across the street and then this campus in 2015, altogether 19.7 acres of property totally donated to Lake Mead. We are absolutely blessed by that opportunity. And as we have grown through the years from 1990 or 1989, we are definitely planning to grow further. However, as we had finally some space last year, we did not grow as much as we had anticipated last year. And the question is, okay, why did that happen? Well, let me tell you a little of the story. When we began in our temporary facilities back in 1989, we had the distinction of being Henderson's first Christian school. The east part of Henderson had 4 Clark County School District schools at that time, 2 elementary, Robert Taylor and C.T. Sewell, Brown Middle School, and then Basic High School. That's what the lay of the land was back when we started. In 1995, when we moved into our permanent address, so the little star moved up a little bit from where we started off, that was still the lay of the land, the 4 schools and us. But then in 2012, East Henderson finally got its first public charter school, and that was up on Boulder Highway. And so the little dot represents Pinecrest. And then when we opened here last year, you see the 2 stars representing the 2 Lake Mead campuses, and you see another Pinecrest that opened up just over here to the west, and that happened last year. So another public charter school. This year, a new CCSD elementary school opened, and you can see that at the top. That's the Josh Stevens School. And so now we have, 3 options here in East Henderson, along with our 2 Lake Mead campuses. And then there's going to be another public charter school that will open next year. That's indicated by the other dot off to the center there, and that's going to be the Legacy School. So these 4 new public schools represent over 3,000 seats that are available in this area. And that has certainly had an impact on the growth of Lake Mead now that we finally have some space. And so it's important, and what we want to remember is what we talked about in the beginning, the why. Because Lake Mead, out of those options, the schools that were already here, and then the new ones represented by the dots, the 3 charters and the 1 new CCSD school, what won't ever happen there that will happen here is the why we exist. That private, faith-based component that Lake Mead is committed to offer to your children, to your family. The commitment to make disciples and to really carry out a mission with your family of education and community as your family's partner. So as we look at where we find ourselves right now, I have a table I'd like to show you. And this table, first of all, starts with the year that we ended across the street. This is the 15-16 year. We had 670 students on average during that year, and we had about 670 spaces. If you were a part of the school at that point, you remember being packed in like sardines across the street. We had 5.6 acres, 60,000 square feet under roof to have class in, 670 kids. And the next year, we opened up this campus, and in 16-17, we anticipated having 850 students. That was an expected increase of 180 students. It was realistic. We definitely had the space for that, and that was even just modulated growth. But what we ended up with was just 765 students. So we were under-enrolled by about 85 students last year at this location. The majority of the 85 students that we did get were students that were mostly in the early education, because we opened up a wing over here that opened up new early education spaces. And then we look at this year, and in this year, in the 17-18 year, once again, we targeted 850 students. We have had an average of 775 this year. That's still 75 students under-enrolled. So what does this do? When you have a student goal versus the students enrolled like this, it's a budgetary shortfall. And so when this happens, what we have to do is we have to readjust. And so we look at a lot of key and critical ways that we can reduce the shortfall. And that's the same thing we all do in our homes whenever we have shortfalls, in our businesses. But I think that you can appreciate that this addition of this beautiful new campus results in many new expenses. So we have additional staff, we have increased utility and maintenance costs, and we have debt service. There's a net gain between the South Campus and what we now have today of just 105 additional students. And there's no way that you can really balance all the operating costs of a new campus with 105 new students, regardless of how really good you are at tightening your belt. It just is not going to happen all the way with simply trying to really work on the budget. So the other factor to this is that we, during that same time period, only had a modest tuition increase. We did go from what we called just the standard tuition to comprehensive, where we gave one price for things. But if you look at the percentage of increase, it was a modest tuition increase. So knowing all of that, that leads us to a question that we often are asked by families. And it's a question that, especially if someone is new to private faith-based education, or being here at LMCA or any other of the private schools, they ask this question, and that is, why does Lake Mead fundraise? And so I would like to explain why we do. It may be surprising to you to know that even if we had enrolled students all the way to what that anticipated, that hopeful number was, and if we had hit it for the past 2 years, there would still be a budgetary shortfall. And so you might say, well, that doesn't make sense. And that's because some of the key things that we decided years ago as a nonprofit ministry that believes God's called us here to offer this education, one of them is that offering a faith-based education is expensive, but we were going to strive for a tuition cost that made LMCA accessible to average income families. So when we set the tuition, that's the goal, average families. And then what we said as a part of this whole process and this whole plan is that we weren't going to be passing along that cost to the families that enrolled. We wanted to keep it accessible, as I said. And so therefore, the tuition that is charged each year to families does not cover the total cost of an LMCA education. So that's why we do fundraising, and we'll go on and talk about what is the true cost of an LMCA education. I'm going to put up another graph here and show that tuition. If you take the average of tuition, that would include the different price points from the early ed to the elementary, the middle school, the high school, and then the fact that we do offer some financial aid to stay accessible. And you take all that together, the tuition dollars, and these are taken from real numbers, is about 50% of what an education actually costs. There are other things. There's auxiliary revenue, things like the food service program, the aftercare program, the camp programs, and things like that. So it's still student-generated revenue. And then there's other monies that come in. So if you add all that together, you start to feel a little bit better because it's about 68% now. So you're like, okay, 68%. But then what fills in the rest of that? Well, what fills it in is 21% of the real cost, the true cost of an LMCA education, is fundraising and donations. That's the way it pencils. And the last bit is another thing that often people are unaware of, and it is the 11%, the final 11% is reduced compensation. The people that serve at Lake Mead in professional capacities, they have agreed to take salaries. They're here as ministers. They take salaries that provide about 11% more of offering the education for students. Now, our desire, I call that temporary, because I'm hoping one day that goes away, that people are able to be paid at their professional market salary. But that's the dedication that we have from our staff. So really, in a very real sense, the staff members that you see day in and day out at Lake Mead, they are making a donation toward the students, the very students that they educate. And so together, those two, that's 32%. That's really close to a third. What does that mean in real numbers? Because I told you this was taken from numbers that we massaged together with our consultant and looked at and have information that we wanted to share. What does that mean in real numbers? The true cost of what you're getting here is about $13,000. And you might say, well, that does not seem like that's possible. That seems like a number that's incorrect because nobody here pays $13,000. But that's, what does it include? 32% of generosity. That's what it adds up to. So this is why we fundraise. We rely on donations, we rely on fundraisers, and we rely on having these dedicated staff members that come and do the work that they do because they're called and because they believe in what happens. Another interesting thing is a lot of the staff become a part of the 21% too. They give back. Over and above the fact that they're already taking a reduction in professional compensation, they give back. So as we head toward wrap up of this time, I'd like to share 3 financial priorities that our leaders have talked about and that we know need to be the priority for us to, head into the final part of the 17-18 year. The first one is that we need to raise $275,000 for this year's shortfall. This is a simple reality, and our commitment as an organization to transparency leads us to share this with you because you're a part of the community, and it's important that we are always very, very clear. The second thing that we're committed to do is to reduce mortgage debt service. Eliminating debt and all of us know this for our own personal lives, that money then can be redirected to other priorities, other things that are important. And for us, one of the things that always is a drum we like to beat is the quality, the improvement. What more can we give the students? To take existing programs and make them better, and to be able to add new programs. So that's the continuing quest for quality that we have. And then the last thing that we have put on this list of a priority is to replace the South Campus playground structure. The structure over on the South Campus has been there for over 15 years. And when it was assembled, we had fewer elementary students that were out at recess. And what we would like to give the children is a much larger, kind of a sprawling play structure that is a little bit lower to the ground, therefore safer, and it'll accommodate and just give a quality play time to the students. So in the fall, we had the Feed the Need fundraiser. We allocated $17,000 from the Feed the Need fundraiser to start this fund, and it'll take about $68,000 more to complete this. So that's our priorities. So what are our next steps? I'm going to leave you with 4 next steps that I'm just going to ask you to think about, pray about, and get involved in. And the first one is, please help Lake Mead Christian Academy grow. So on your chair, you have some paperwork about our referral program. And our referral program was revamped a couple of years ago because we know that the most important way that we've grown from the very beginning has been word of mouth. So we want to really help you in the opportunity to share about Lake Mead. So take that paperwork with you and make sure that you understand kind of like how it works, but take advantage of it, because we want to really be a blessing to you as you help us grow. The other thing is share the word about the choice scholarships. Actually, there's the largest of the companies that are managing these scholarships open up tomorrow to the public. And it's a limited amount of money that the state of Nevada funds these scholarships with. So share the word about it, find out more about it. Definitely, Kara is a wealth of information about that. You're going to get a survey link in I think it'll come out by Tuesday, and we want you to take that survey. When you get that survey link, please take the survey and then talk to other parents. We've had a decent participation this afternoon in our 3 sessions, but there's a lot of parents who aren't here. And this is a culture that from the beginning has been important to us, to be a culture of participation. One of the best things you can do to make our school even better is to get the friends, the parents that are part of Lake Mead involved. The more involved our parent body is, the better our school becomes. So have them go look at the link to watch what they missed tonight, have them take the survey, and that's step 2. And step 3, on April 10th, we have a PTF barbecue. Again, I would like it to be like the old days. I know people hate hearing about the old days, but the line to get the barbecue was so long that you're like, do I really want to do this? But we've kind of lost some of that. Please knock the socks off of the PTF on April 10th. Come out to the barbecue and stay for a town hall meeting that we're going to have. This will be over at the South Campus, and when you come to the town hall, it's going to be a lot more interactive. I'm trying to stay to my 30 minutes and get you out of here on time, but the town hall will be a lot more interactive, and that'll take place right after the barbecue. And the 4th step is that I think that you understand from the words that I've shared today that we have to have fundraisers. And so plan to wholeheartedly participate in the very necessary fundraiser that we have coming up on May the 11th. It's called the Give Day in May. And it's going to be with a mobile app similar to what we did with Feed the Need, but it's going to be a really good, easy way for you to help your family and friends participate in supporting Lake Mead Christian Ministries, which is a 501c3. It's a tax entity that gives them deductions. And so we want you to really feel always confident of sharing with people that are a part of your world just the things that we do. It's not just a school, it's not just a church, it's not just an early ed center and a counseling center. It's an overarching ministry designed to serve people, and what purpose, the reason we exist, for discipleship. And so I pray that you would really want to promote that, the Give Day in May. I thank you for your attention and your time, for coming out, for letting us be a part of your family and your world, and just for the privilege that we have of having a place like Lake Mead that can really make an impact on our own families and on your family.